Hello everyone, today's story is about a phone call. One night around 12 a.m., Mr. M and some colleagues were heading home after work, discussing their jobs. Once home, they started making a late-night snack. Suddenly, colleague Mr. H rushed anxiously into the kitchen to ask if the others had heard his phone ring when they were in the elevator just now. The other three were puzzled, not knowing what had happened. Mr. H explained that in the elevator, his wife had called him. When he answered, the other end hung up already. Mr. H thought he would call back later after finishing up other things. When Mr. H went to call his wife back, he suddenly realized there was no call record. But he was certain his wife had called him, so how was there no record? That's why he came to ask the others. However, since everyone had been distracted at the time, no one had heard Mr. H's phone ring. So they all said Mr. H must be mistaken, otherwise how could there be no call log? Mr. H then redialed his wife, but she didn't pick up after several tries. He said his wife must be sleeping already, plus she would never call so late. In the end, the others didn't believe him, while Mr. H insisted he had answered a call in the elevator. Since Mr. H's family wasn't local, they couldn't verify in person if his wife had called. The next day at work, Mr. H was still thinking about the bizarre incident and took Mr. M to check the security footage, determined to prove he really got a call last night. At the security office, Mr. H explained the situation. The guard then checked the footage and indeed found Mr. H answering a call in the elevator last night. But why was there no call record? Mr. H immediately called his wife to confirm if she had called last night, but she said she hadn't received or made any calls last night. Hearing this, Mr. H was even more confused. He clearly called his wife several times last night, how could there be none? He checked his call log again, which showed no outgoing calls last night from Mr. H. Standing there stunned for a long time, Mr. H muttered to himself, could it have been my delusion? Did none of this exist? I didn't get a call from my wife or call her back. Is there something wrong with my memory? Hearing Mr. H say this, Mr. M was also very puzzled. When they returned to the office and told the other colleagues who were present last night, everyone was baffled, unable to explain what had happened. In the end, the incident wasn't followed up on. This reminded Mr. M of something strange with phone calls from many years ago. One day after his grandfather's funeral, all the relatives were eating in his grandpa's yard. Mr. M's father was busy hosting while his aunt prepared food in the kitchen. Suddenly both their phones rang simultaneously. Answering, they heard each other's voices, yet neither had called the other. Mr. M's father explained it as a crossed line, since there was no caller ID back then. Ultimately, they couldn't investigate further and could only attribute it to crossed wires. This situation was very similar to Mr. H's experience, both involving inexplicable phone calls. What could be going on? Today's story ends here. Have any of you viewers encountered something similar? Please discuss in the comments. See you next story.